Hey guys, Professor Ader again. This is part 3 of 3 for the American Revolution lecture series. We're going to go ahead and get started with some of these other battles that we're going to see in the American Revolution. So where we left off last week, we'd just gotten through the Battle of Trenton, and America is now on the offensive. We're not playing defense anymore, we're on offense. Some significant battles that we're going to talk about are going to be Saratoga. Not really a battle, but Valley Forge is something that we're going to talk about. So Valley Forge is not really a battle. It's just a battle of human will, if you will. The Battle of Yorktown, and these are success, failure-ish, with success at the end, and then success again. Saratoga is the turning point of the war. It's the biggest American victory at the time, and about 5,000 British are going to surrender to George Washington at this time. And the reason that it's so significant is because it causes different countries to come out in full support of the United States or of America. France goes from kind of being secret best friends with us to being full-on best friends. And then they make it like Facebook official, and then they unfriend Great Britain. If you remember, in the French and Indian War, we talked about the triangle of hatred between Britain, France, and Spain. Here you're going to see some of that, where France is now going to say, okay, we're all in. We're committed to this. Britain, we're at war with you. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we get Spain declaring war as well in 1779. So we get these countries that decide, you know what? We think this is a worthwhile cause, or maybe we just think we can beat the British now, so we're going to try. We have Bernardo de Galvez. He is going to be a Spanish lord that's in Mexico. We already kind of mentioned him. I said we'd talk about him later. Here it is. He's in Mexico, and he's going to start fighting from the southwest and pushing the British back toward the northeast in the United States. From the 20th of September to the 7th of October, the armies were so near that not a night passed without firing. I do not believe that either officer or soldier ever slept without his clothes, meaning that they were so scared, frightened, fighty, that they did not even take their uniforms off to sleep. They just laid down and slept. Then we get to Valley Forge, and Valley Forge is a low point. It's like the low point for the Americans. We have the army running out of food and clothing, and somebody's like, how do you run out of clothing? Well, one, winter is coming, and they need warmer clothes, but also they're wearing out boots because they're marching everywhere. They are getting their clothes torn, walking through trees and bushes and bramble and thickets and thistles and thorns, and they're getting stuff torn up. And they need replacement clothes, and they just can't get them. And they find Valley Forge as a brief refuge and decide they need to kind of build up and stay there for a while. And that's where the problem comes in. Supplies run out, and a bunch of people are going to die. Washington asks Congress for help, but there's not a whole lot that Congress can do. They're kind of on their own here. It gets to the point that people want to leave. They're just like, this is too tough. This is too much. I don't want this anymore. I got to get out of here. And Washington says, if anybody leaves, we will shoot you. Like, we will kill you if you try to leave. That sounds very harsh, but it is something that they face because they don't want people to leave. The Marquis de Lafayette joins Washington as an aide, and he really becomes one of Washington's right-hand men. Like, he is super important to Washington. You're also going to get Baron Friedrich von Steuben, who's going to join as well, and he's going to help teach the army some military discipline. Baron Friedrich von Steuben is going to be one of those guys that we don't really hear about that much in history, but he is super important for the Americans, especially during this time. And here at the Battle of Yorktown, we have the British kind of being pinned in, and there'll be a map on the next slide that I'll really go into this on. The French are going to blockade with their ships so that the British cannot get any kind of aid or assistance or food, anything like that. And British General Cornwallis faces American forces approximately twice his size. And by twice his size, I don't mean there's a bunch of Mr. Ader-sized people. I mean the number of people is about twice on the American/French side as there are on the British side. And here's that map I was talking about. You can see the British in red on both sides with their backs against the water, the French in purple, and the Americans in this dark blue. And you can see they can't get supplies. The British can't get supplies from the water. They can't get supplies from the land. They are just basically stuck there. Given the options, the British end up surrendering. 8,700 troops are going to surrender. General Benjamin Lincoln is going to be the one that accepts the surrender sword. And the British are going to play a song called "The World Has Turned Upside Down," because this is not how this is supposed to happen. The British are the best. They're not supposed to lose, but they do. In 1783, we have the Treaty of Paris. This is the thing that's signed to officially end the Revolutionary War. It sets many geographic borders. This includes the U.S. and Canada. The U.S. is going to get everything east of the Mississippi, north of Florida, and south of Canada. This includes all or at least part of the modern-day states of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, North and South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, and Iowa. All of those. Like, we get at least part of them in this deal. Spain, who traded Florida to Great Britain after the French and Indian War, and in turn they got all of this stuff over here, Spain gets Florida back for helping us there at the end. So they got all this land that they used to have down here, plus land they got from the French and Indian War. They made out pretty good in this. We decide that British merchants have to be paid for items that were lost or stolen, like that tea that we threw into the harbor. And if you were a loyalist, somebody who supported the king, we were going to repay you for any damages that we caused. We don't repay them. We don't repay them. But don't tell anybody. They might come back for that money. Penalties inflicted on the loyalist. Some were tarred and feathered, which is truly an awful, awful punishment. Pouring liquid hot tar onto someone and throwing feathers on it before it cools and hardens. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Our first shot at a government after the American Revolution is over is the Articles of Confederation. They're written by John Dixon in 1777, and they're ratified in 1781. This is going to be the government of the United States from 1781 to 1787. And there are a few problems, namely the fact that they leave out huge parts of what we consider government today. Strengths, though, gives us the ability to wage war, to issue or make money that we can trade for goods. Almost as important as being able to start a war is being able to stop a war. We can sign treaties, set up post offices, appoint ambassadors, and settle conflicts between the states. But that last part's kind of the problem, because as good as it is that we can settle these conflicts, the reason that there are conflicts is one of the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation, and that is the states are sovereign. They get to make any choices that they want. They're not really under control of anybody else. Oh yeah, there's no president, no army, no courts, no taxing power, no power to enforce the laws. Every state gets one vote, no matter if you have 60,000 or 60 million people. It doesn't matter, you get one vote. 9 out of 13 states are needed to pass a law, and 13 out of 13 states are needed to amend or make changes to the Articles of Confederation. One of the things that happens here in 1787 is the Northwest Ordinance. This is how we add states to the Union. It says once you are a territory and you reach 60,000 people, you can apply for statehood. And if you are granted statehood, you will become a state. And a couple rules you have to follow. There's going to be free education. Also, there's not going to be slavery. And that rule lasts for about 10 seconds. And we'll get into that a little later on. We also have people arming themselves and acting as an army. We have Shays Rebellion, a former Continental Army captain named Daniel Shay is going to get together with several farmer friends of his and other just farmers who have similar issues. He says that the government keeps taking his land, so they end up attacking these local militias that they see as an arm of the government. This makes Americans realize that the federal government can't really do anything to help them. So if this happens, let's say in Georgia, Georgia can't say, hey, we need some help, and the federal government sends the militia from South Carolina to help. Like, that doesn't happen. So this is one of those things where people start to realize, okay, yeah, this is awesome that we're free, but we might need to look at some of this stuff a little bit closer. So in conclusion, this is an 8-year war that has impacted us even to this day. There's been many plays and many films made about it. Heroes are made, like the guy that you see on the screen right now, George Washington, or as his friends like to call him, Georgia Boy. And this is truly the birth of a nation, one that the world has never seen something like this before. Okay, guys, thank you very much for paying attention. Thank you for watching the videos. If you have any questions, make sure that you reach out, you ask, email me, something like that. I'll see you guys during the next lecture. Bye.